On this video, I wanted to talk about what sex meant for me when I was broken, unhealed, as a person who was raped at the age of 6, at the age of 8. I was raped also at the age of 17 by two total strangers at gunpoint. I was also raped in a relationship by a boyfriend on my second year university. So as a person who has gone through the trauma from the hands of a man, I came to the conclusion, I framed that sex is something that men wanted from women, that they wanted, specifically from me, that this is something that I had to perform to satisfy a man's need. So when it came to communication, because this rape incidents was not dealt with in my family, the perpetrators were not, my cousin at the age of 8 was not reported, and the man who raped me at the age of 6, the bribe was paid to set him free, and the two guys who raped me at the age of 17, I did report the matter, and an assessment was done, tests were done, but I never heard if they were found convicted, because even in terms of giving the description, and I think those times, that was in 2000, also the sketching the drawing of a person was not done in my case. So I don't know if they were caught, especially just specifically for raping me. Maybe they were caught for other crimes that they had committed. So then communication, because now I felt like I was told, keep this to yourself, this is your little secret, or your opinions do not matter, we don't want to hear what you have to say about this. So then this was my framing. It means that then communicating how I feel about a matter is something I should not vocalize, something I should not speak out about. So then that meant then I kept my opinions to myself, I kept my feelings to myself. So then coming now into marriage with this understanding of saying you do sex to satisfy a man for peace sake, and then also you do not vocalize your opinions or your feelings in a matter. Now, in my marriage, this showed up is that as much as we were having so much problems that we were not communicating about, then sex was, the makeup sex was something we did often, where we're not talking about the issues at hand. We were just piling the issues, but then we'll continue to have sex and therefore continue to grow as a family and have these kids, yet we were having so much problems as the foundation of the marriage. Because now, for me, sex was to make peace, and also to a certain level, also sex was, I was using it as a weapon in terms of manipulation and control, because I knew that this is something that this person wants, that this person desires, that this person wants from me, and therefore it felt like I had an upper hand now in this situation of using it as a weapon, maybe sometimes to get my way, and also to not address issues that were before us, that were uncomfortable, because now sex was the thing that was just okay. We were fighting yesterday, we had sex, now it's over, let's continue and move forward until the next bump and the next bump and the next bump. Then it was just going like that and going like that, and then it became like, okay, sex is the solution for so many of our problems, but talking about the issues, because I also felt this as now this is my the broken version of myself, the unhealed version of myself who was having these thoughts, because I felt less of myself. I felt unworthy. I felt not valuable because so many people had exploited, so many people had used me for their gain, especially men, because it's them who was raping me. So I felt so exploited. I felt like my body was not respected. So then I would just give now willingly, even though there were issues that I felt were, or the issues of my heart were not being dealt with, or I was not feeling loved, I was not feeling safe. Because to be honest, sex at that point now, prior to my healing journey, was like, it didn't have to feel safe for me to be able to give of myself sexually. I didn't have to feel safe with you because it had been done at a gunpoint, had been done outside of my will, even by a person who is dating you. It's like, okay, if you are dating a person, why rape them? Because they are already your girlfriend. Why do you feel the need to rape your own girlfriend instead of just being respectful and talking to that person with a little respect, giving them little respect and appreciation? Why rape a person when you are dating them? So now that meant, now for me, it didn't have to feel safe with the person I'm doing it with, the environment. It didn't have to feel safe. It's something that I had to perform for peace sake, something that I had to perform. Now it was even a duty as this person's wife. So, but now when it came to submission, when it came to submitting now to my husband, that was a different story. As much as sex didn't have to feel safe, but then submission, I could not submit because I did not feel safe. Because submission now is about following this person's vision, following this person's values, following this person. So I did not feel safe now in terms of submission. I did not feel safe in terms of physically, and then also in terms of my own heart. I did not feel safe. So submission is something I never did. I never submitted because I never felt safe. But sex, could have it anytime, and to the point that it was not even a point of argument for us that, yeah, you always come up with excuses when we have to say have sex, you're not performing this. It was not even an issue, because now this is something I was trained. Yes, not trained in the right way, but this is something that I was trained, that men desire this thing, men want this thing, and they don't have to cultivate a safe environment for you to be able to give of yourself in this manner. But now, submission. Yes, I struggled also to give submission because now of there was no example, and also I did not have a father who maybe showed me, or parents that showed what submission meant. And I was not in my word in terms of reading my Bible. I was not saved. Therefore, submission now, which meant, okay, I have to go with what this person says. I have to go where this person is taking us. That did not feel safe for me. It did not feel safe now because my heart now was at stake, especially because there were also situations where the handling of the matter in terms of the tone, the body, the bodily countenance was not creating that, cultivating and curating that safe space to say, where I'm taking you, it's safe. So that was a total different story altogether when it came now to submitting to my husband. I could not do it. We were always at loggerheads when it came to that, and he felt not respected, and not that I was speaking vulgar language or swearing at him, but the way in terms I was addressing him, because now this was now that also that anger brewing from the treatment previously from all those men, that now he was also being faced with, and not because he was also walking uprightly himself. So now he was also faced with that anger addressed to him, that was also towards him, because he was also not working upright, and because he was not creating that safe space. And so therefore, when it came to that, I could not give of myself in terms of working where he was working. And up to the point now that leads now to where we are, where he, in a spare of a moment during his anger, he was telling me he resents me, and that he said, I've been flirting with these women because you did not satisfy me. And that broke something in me, that healed something in me, because I had always used sex as a performance, as something that was a duty that I had to do, even if I was not feeling safe with the person. But it was something that I had to give of myself. So it broke something from in my heart to say, I don't have to perform to be liked, especially to an environment or in a situation where you even are feeling dishonored, you are even feeling not safe, you are even feeling not appreciated. So this is something I've been just pondering and just trying to get grips in terms of, was I was like saying, okay, but sex was never an issue, because I had been trained. I had been trained that it didn't have to be safe, it didn't have to be conducive, it didn't have to be in a right environment for you to perform that duty. But then when it came to submission, I could not, because I saw that my heart was at stake. I did not feel safe in that way of following, of submitting to a person whom I did not feel safe in terms of my heart, because of the treatment I had been receiving. But I had no problem, because you can find a person and ask them, but you've been having these problems, because the problems were there even from the beginning. You can say to a person, you've been having these problems for so long, yet you have so many children with this person. It is because now of that performance that I felt I had to do. Even with the children, I love my children. We both love our children. But now when I look back, having the children also was, I wanted to win some people, because traditionally for us it says that like the number of children you have, you are more valued, you are more accepted in that home you've been married to. Especially when they are boys, you are more prone to acceptability, because you are growing the family. And but it's not always true. It's not always the case that you are accepted because of the number of children, especially when it's something that you are using from a broken place. So now, as a person who is healing, on this healing journey, I understand it differently now, that I have to give of myself to a person to whom I feel safe. Because now when I look at the love of Christ and what he has done for me on the cross, that he had to give of himself, he had to die for me to live. And then he says that is the epitome, that is an example of what a husband should be to a wife. He has to die to self for her, and she has to submit. Because now when you die to self, meaning that there are things that you are willing to let go of so that you can make this thing work. There are behaviors, there are friendships, there are disciplines, there are things, routines, there are things, addictions that you are willing to let go of, that you are working towards so that this union can work out. Now, that is the example now of what Christ did for us. And therefore now when I look at his love for me, I can now see what my husband, the position now he's willing to take to make this environment healthy and feel safe and loving for me, that he has to be willing and work toward, not even just say it, but take actions and consistency to working these things out that are being a hindrance in our marriage, in our union, that is working towards those things, of letting go of those things, of healing from some things that may still be triggers for him, so that I can also now feel safe in his presence, feel safe in his direction and leadership as the head of now our household, as my head in this case, because the orders are Jesus, husband, wife, children. So my husband is my covering. He's my head, and Christ is his head. If now he's not submitted to Christ, how can then I submit? Because that was also an issue. If he's not submitted to Christ, that was an issue for me in my own marriage. If he's not submitted to Christ, how am I going to submit to him? Because he has to be led also, so that he can lead me. So what would that look like for him to be submitted to Christ? Being intentional in terms of spending time getting to know who Christ is and what is the will of Christ for his life and the vision of this family. He has to be willing to, he has to work towards that, in that intentionality of making sure that he is living in the will that God has set, that God has destined this family that he's giving him for. So now I know that that is what love. He has to be willing to let go. He can't be the same person always. He has to always be progressive, growing spiritually, emotionally, physically. He has to be progressing and working towards bettering himself and growing himself. He cannot stay stagnant. And by doing that now, he is also working towards our families, working towards now our covering as a family. And therefore now it's easy for me to submit and give myself off in that environment.